The UFL, Cristiano Ronaldo. Wait, there's more. Ever since the news broke out in 2022, the UFL gathered momentum and became one of the most anticipated video game releases of all time. Ronaldo's the face, alright, but that doesn't mean he's the only big game on the brand. Other guys on the video game are also brand ambassadors. Why? What's their gain in all of this? That's what you're about to find out. The UFL is officially scheduled for release in December 2024, but recently a couple of video gamers and streamers saw the game firsthand. The story behind the UFL is unique. Developed by Strikers Incorporated, the UFL is a video game that aims to bring something fresh into the competitive gaming market and prove a point too. See, for years, the football video game scene has been dominated by EAFC. Initially known as FIFA, these guys used to rule the competitive gaming world. In fact, they still do. They've been at the top of the video game scene for a long while now, displacing the other competitors in the niche, Konami and Pro Evolution Soccer. The problem with FIFA developed as the years passed. Once they realized they were now top of the video game chain, they began to monopolize the scene with the introduction of features that seemed cool at first, but ultimately just became tools for gamers and users to pay even more. Ultimate Team. It's pay to win, the most appropriate description of it. Ultimate involves gamers spending money on packs and in-game purchases just to make their squads better. And the truth is, while users and the general gaming committee that played the game did complain about it, FIFA wasn't bothered and realized they didn't need to do anything about it. Why? Because in the end, they knew they were the most marketable game out there. These users would stop complaining and play the game. In 2023, both FIFA and EA shocked the world. They announced the split that opened a world of possibilities. Part of what made FIFA as a video game so successful was EA's partnership with football's governing body. By partnering with them meant exclusive licenses to leagues and clubs numbering over 19,000. That's why the game felt realistic, and that's because it made use of official club names and teams for in-game play. However, EA had come out to state that they were open and pushing to try new features in the game, but FIFA was holding them back. And as a result, they announced the split from FIFA and gave birth to their new franchise, EAFC. New name and new features, but it's still relatively the same game, pay to win. Nothing much has changed despite the partnership split, or at least that's what it looked like on the surface, but this split opened an opportunity for a new brand to come in and push an idea that made so much sense to the general public. The UFL. According to Eugene Nashilov, the CEO of the game, the UFL is going to be revolutionary, one of a kind. How? Well, they're introducing features that seem like they're adding up. For starters, it's free to play. Unlike the EAFC, which operates on a pay-to-win basis, the UFL is going to be a free game. And that means in the competitive scene, players won't have to spend as much as they do on EAFC. It checks off. Another cool feature about the UFL is that it's going to be solely based on skill. And once again, not how much is spent on purchasing players. If you play EAFC, this one doesn't need that much of an explanation. The unfortunate reality is that for players to compete in the game, they have to spend on getting better players on their teams. If you don't, you're gonna get beat. The UFL, however, is down to how much you know of the game. That is, how well you play it, and by doing this, they're encouraging users to spend time playing the game more to master the controls, basics, and how to effectively play the game. Safe to say, this feature sounds like a cool idea, and they've got other unique stuff into it. But focusing on the guys they got as the cover, the first one was the Mega Pull. It's not enough to have brilliant ideas in his niche, unfortunately. Konami and eFootball could have had better ideas than FIFA and EAFC, but ultimately it came down to how well they could market the game and who could do it better. To this end, that's one thing EAFC and FIFA formerly knew how to do. They got the biggest names in the world to feature as cover stars, and it became a big thing. So big actually that alongside the game, fans started anticipating who was going to be the cover star for the next title release. Lionel Messi was the FIFA cover star for the 2013, 2014, 2015 and 2016 titles, while FIFA 17 got users hooked on the title thing by giving them a chance to vote for who they wanted to be the cover star that year. And that's how Marco Reus came into the picture. For FIFA 18 and 19, it was Cristiano Ronaldo. Eden Hazard became the cover in FIFA 20, and for the next 3 years, it was Kylian Mbappe, who in the process also became the last FIFA cover star under the title of FIFA. New game in 2024, Erling Haaland. In the new EAFC 25 version, the cover star is Jude Bellingham. I mentioned all these names so you could understand just how important getting the right name on a video game cover is. FIFA and EAFC mastered the art. They didn't just pick these guys because they wanted to, the timing was great. See, all players mentioned above were cover stars when they were arguably the most informed players in the world. The UFL and Eugene Nashilov learned this trick too, and that's why they went big on it. Cristiano Ronaldo. See guys, Ronaldo's involvement in the game comes from two angles. He first got in after the news broke out that he invested millions into the game because he wanted to be a part of it. He loved the game's ideas and the fact that it was free to play. On the other hand, Ronaldo as the face of the brand is a smart marketing strategy. By this, I mean you're talking about a guy who was the cover star for both rival brands in the video game scene. As mentioned, he was the FIFA cover star for the 2018 and 2019 editions. And while PES, modern-day eFootball, was still a thing, Ronaldo was the cover star for the 2013 title. Getting him as the cover for UFL not only means there's a popular face that looks to attract users and brands to get involved with the game, but it also means there's extra marketability as well. Ronaldo is the most followed human being on the planet. He's got over 1 billion followers on social media. Do the math. Getting his face on anything is bound to sell. But with all that's being said so far, it turns out that Ronaldo isn't the only face on the game's brand. There's a cast of other superstar ballers involved in the game as well. Apart from Ronaldo, there's Kevin De Bruyne, Romelu Lukaku, Alexander Zinchenko, and Roberto Firmino. While all these names are popular in the football world, they don't exactly stand out when it comes to the video gaming scene. Seems like the UFL just randomly picked them. Or did they? Looking at it now, there's a reason why each game was picked. Starting with Kevin De Bruyne, the decision to pick the Belgian superstar was a wise one. He's the joint highest rated player in the game alongside Cristiano Ronaldo, and that's because Kevin De Bruyne is an undisputed baller. Apart from that though, De Bruyne represents something unique to the UFL. On the brand, with the acquisition of De Bruyne, it seems they're going for authentic ballers and not just flashy marketable ones alone. I mean, yeah, we just discussed how well a marketable player can help sell a game, but with Kevin De Bruyne, he's not the type of guy who grabs major headlines for spontaneous decisions every week. Instead, he's a guy who simply focuses on his football. Just looking at the brand's official post about De Bruyne here, and it backs it up. He's been picked for the game as being a face purely on his football abilities. It goes without saying that Kevin De Bruyne is one of the best passers of the ball the game has ever seen. He can make an assist out of nothing. Speaking of assists, I'll do you a solid by telling you right now that the subscribe button to Mr. Football is down below, and if you click it, you can get exclusive content to the channel and the latest video releases. Right, so we know why De Bruyne was selected. He represents a true brand of footballers based on skill and not necessarily the guys with a lot of hype. Well, that's it for him, but why was Roberto Firmino selected then? For this one, we have to go back. See, the decision to select Firmino was made in 2021 when he was still at Liverpool, and looking deeply at it now, it falls in line with the same reasons Kevin De Bruyne was selected. At the time, Firmino was one of Liverpool's most underrated ballers. This was done at the start of the 2021-22 season, a start where Firmino had scored a hat-trick on the opening day of the season against Watford. Coming down to it, Firmino was the unsung hero of a Liverpool front three that terrorised Premier defences and Europe for years. He was the guy who made that Liverpool attack alongside Mohamed Salah and Sadio Mane. So why didn't the video game makers or strikers incorporated go for either Mane or Salah then? Well, as we touched on earlier, it's for the same reasons as the Kevin De Bruyne one. Seems they had the list in the Premier League specifically selected for proper ballers, a category Roberto Firmino ticked. They've been very smart with the selections up to that point. Think about it, they picked two big parts of the best Premier League teams, the leading Premier League teams for the last 3 to 4 years in the league. As of 2021, Manchester City had won the league 3 times in 4 years, or rather put, Kevin De Bruyne had won the league 3 times in 4 years. The only time they didn't win it was when Roberto Firmino's Liverpool team beat them to it in the 2019-20 season. Largely underrated ballers were the theme for the UFL at the time with these two selections, Firmino and De Bruyne that is. But when it comes to the third one, it makes you question the list again. Why did they pick Alexander Zinchenko? Actually, Alexander Zinchenko is an OG of the game, because when it gets down to it, he was the first name announced as the cover. Why he got picked? This decision was made to test the waters. Going back to 2021, the game was still in the early development phase. There wasn't as much hype around it as there was later on in the year when the likes of Firmino and De Bruyne joined. They wanted to see what it would be like and what the reaction would be if they got a Premier League star on board, and Zinchenko was the first pick. That's not to say they picked a nobody though. In his own right, Alexander Zinchenko's career is pretty decent. Hold on, wait a minute, there's a deeper reason why Zinchenko got picked by the UFL, and with this one, it all just adds up. Zinchenko is a huge video game fan. He's so big on video games that he's the founder and creator of Passion UA, an esports team that has competed in international competitions, such as Counter-Strike 2, Apex Legends, and Dota 2. Now it all adds up. The first pick for the brand was an upcoming football talent at the time who also loved video games as well. With Zinchenko, honestly, when you connect the dots, it represents an untapped market Eugene Nashilov is trying to pull into. Both he and Zinchenko are from the eastern part of Europe, Nashilov from Russia and Zinchenko from Ukraine. Before you get any funny ideas though, this was before what happened in 2022, so it was purely down to video game and entertainment reasons. Kevin De Bruyne, Roberto Firmino, and now Alexander Zinchenko, 3 Premier League stars. There was a connection between all three, and that's why it all added up with the 4th game ambassador was announced, Romelu Lukaku. At the time, he just signed for Chelsea in the Premier League for a club record fee of $115 million. Lukaku was bagging the big bucks, and now he was going to be taking his skills and expertise to join a new video game. So why Lukaku then? At the time, the question would have been, why not? This is where we see the marketing part of the game come into play. Look at the names they'd got in at the time. Firmino, De Bruyne, Zinchenko, all played in the Premier, yes. But at the time, guys, each ambassadorial signing was a step up. In terms of popularity, they began with Zinchenko. While he's also a gamer and all, in reality, Zinchenko isn't the most popular footballer out there, and the UFL knew this too. But this was a start. As we touched on earlier, begging Zinchenko as the first ambassador of the game was to test waters and see how people would react to the news. Then came Roberto Firmino. Not exactly the most popular, but more popular than Alexander Zinchenko. Firmino was very recognizable in the football world, and the move was once again a step up from what they had at the time. To move from Firmino and then add De Bruyne to the list, the plan was clear. These guys were going to keep getting even more popular names to join. It's also important to note that these players were performing at relatively high levels at the time. Add this to the amount of popularity they had, and it was booming. With Lukaku, they'd added a player who had been almost everywhere and done it important. He played for the likes of Chelsea, Manchester United, and Inter Milan, and was now back at Chelsea. With Lukaku, the UFL cashed in on trending popularity. When Lukaku made the move back to Chelsea in 2021, it generated a lot of headlines. A player in the news like that getting signed to the brand meant that people were looking up news about Lukaku and what he could add to the Chelsea team, or how he'd perform. They were also seeing news on Lukaku and the new video game he'd become a brand ambassador to, the UFL. Business strategy. To prove the popularity point, after these guys came the big one. That's when Cristiano Ronaldo joined the team. With Ronaldo, the step up was insane. I mean, think about it. They've been progressing nicely, from Zinchenko to Firmino, De Bruyne, Lukaku, and now Ronaldo. Each 5 players represents different aspects and designs of the game. With Zinchenko, they had a gamer, a guy who played football and understood how video games worked. More so, a guy who could help spread the game in Ukraine and help market it in Eastern Europe too. Goes without saying that Zinchenko is one of the most popular players in his country. He's even captained the national team. With Robert Firmino, he brought flair, Si senor, the dribbling moves, and skill set. With his popularity at the time as well, it was different. With Kevin De Bruyne, they had a baller, passing ability maxed, a must-have player on video game teams, getting De Bruyne, an Ultimate Team and FIFA icon at the time, to come out with a statement saying he'd now become an exclusive in the UFL That slapped hard. With Romelu Lukaku, they had one of the most recognizable strikers of the last decade, the video game, plus he'd been in 3 of the biggest clubs in the world at the time. Big Rom. I don't think I need to hit hard on what Ronaldo was bringing to the table and the game. With him, they had everything. The market, the face, a proper player, and a sponsor. So what do these guys stand to gain from the game? Well, apart from the income they'd get for being ambassadors, there are exclusives they'd get in the game as well. Because they're the face of the brand, you can expect to see the game going all out to get their detailed appearances in-game. And that means, for example, Roberto Firmino's star tattoo on his neck comes out, or Kevin De Bruyne's silky hair. You pay close attention to the brand ambassadors. That's how the game works. Truth is, guys, for a video game to succeed, it needs pull power. And that's what the UFL has done by getting these guys in on the brand as ambassadors. But when it comes to the in-game experience, here's the big question. Is it better than the leading contender, EAFC? You can find out all about it in the next video. Check to see if Ronaldo's UFL game is better than EAFC.